Hi, my name is Sensei Tom Pirog, and I am the director and sole proprietor of Peaceful Heart Traditional Karate here in Portsmouth. Um, I've got 15 years experience in training. I started training in September of 2000, then I did take a short break, and so I've got about 15 years of experience. I've actually taught most of that time. About 6 months into my training, I started assisting with 3.5 to 6-year-old students, the knee-high samurais. And from there, I continued teaching, and I've taught obviously all the way up to adult. So I am asked sometimes why I call my dojo Peaceful Heart Traditional Karate. It's not like striking, slashing dragon or something like that. When I decided on a name, which was actually quite a while ago, I wanted to pick something that would stand out, as well as kind of be clear about my mission and my approach and how I teach. And really, what I found is my training, rather than make me an aggressive or assertive person or feed into anger or anything like that, has always really helped me um, to cultivate sort of a more peaceful heart. And I am a heart patient, actually. I have a congenital heart defect that I've trained through, and fortunately my outcome and my health is very good. So I wanted to incorporate the heart, and again, what my mission is with Peaceful Heart, and what the goal of our training is, which is to cultivate um, the confidence and discipline to remain sort of peaceful in self-defense situations. My approach here at Peaceful Heart, with teaching my students, it bases on primarily um, two quotes from masters. One of them is a quote from Gichin Funakoshi, who was actually the person who brought karate from Okinawa to Japan, to mainland Japan, and formalized it and popularized it there. And his saying was "Karate do ni sente nashi," which means in karate there is no first attack. So obviously we always emphasize self-defense and not attacking. And the other is from Chojun Miyagi, and he is actually the founder of Goju-Ryu Karate, which is one of the styles that I train in and I teach here at Peaceful Heart. And that quote is, I only have the English, I don't know the Japanese on it. It's, "Do not strike others and do not allow others to strike you. The goal is peace without incident." And of course, anyone who's seen the Karate Kid recognizes the name Miyagi. He actually was the founder of Goju, and that's actually the style they used for the original movie, not the Jackie Chan one. But again, those sort of outline our approach to the martial arts, which is, the goal is peace without incident, and there is no first attack. The reason I train in and teach traditional Karate Do rather than some other style is basically just, and there are a lot of schools and they do a great job with this in other ways. But I've always seen the focus, at least in the schools that I've trained in traditional karate, to be on that character development. We go back again to Funakoshi. The ultimate aim of karate lies not in victory or defeat, but in developing the character of its participants. So the goal is, you go into the dojo, and every day you go in there, you try to do a little better than you did last time. And it's about your own development. It's not so much about competition with others, although we do, have competitions. And it's not so much about scoring points on the other guy when you spar. It's about doing better than you did, last time when you sparred. So, or whatever the exercise is. So I feel traditional karate really focuses on that character development, and we project that in our school through our dojo kun, which has 5 principles, and they're all numbered 1. because they're all priority. They're all just as important as the rest. And those are to strive for the perfection of character, to defend the path of truth, to foster the spirit of effort, to honor the principles of etiquette, and to guard against impetuous courage. And those are the statements we use, the principles we use to develop our character, again, to do better each day, whether it's on the dojo floor or in our work life, or for kids, going to school. You did better on the math test this week than you did last week. Well, how come? Well, because, in karate with Sensei Tom, we worked on focus, and so I was able to kind of tune out everything else when I was doing my test and pay attention better. These are all things, that are developed, and why I focus on traditional style rather than a lot of the other things that are out there. So, kids' martial arts classes have been around for a while, and the benefits of them are pretty well known at this point. But just to kind of to discuss it, basically what martial arts does for a child is helps them to increase their focus, basically on the drills that we're working on, and by learning katas, it helps them to increase memorization and focus and critical thinking, actually, because we do take our katas and then think about the techniques and the applications of them. So it increases that. For younger children, early elementary school, maybe kindergarten through second grade or something, it helps to increase their attention span. That's actually the main focus when I teach them, is trying to keep their focus, and just sort of stretch that attention span a little bit more each week, so that they learn to expand it, and then they start to develop that focus as well. Also, in all classes, really, martial arts helps kids with discipline and impulse control, because by following the etiquette and the traditions, we require kids to be in the moment, so to speak, and sort of monitoring their surroundings and controlling their impulses to speak out or whatever, act out, things like that. So they increase their discipline and their impulse control, and that's the sort of character things that we build. It's also a great form of exercise for kids. It helps them to release some of their energy. A lot of times, if kids are in school all day, they need to release some energy, and this is a great activity for that. Right now, of course, we're all at home, basically, in the stay-at-home order for the COVID-19 crisis. And that's why actually I'm offering online classes, because even though, we're not face-to-face, we're not in the same room, a lot of these benefits can still be taught, as well as, again, it gives the kids an outlet to release some energy, and to kids' minds are very curious, and they want to learn stuff all the time. So this gives them another thing to learn, which occupies their minds as well, with a positive thing, rather than, more video games or YouTube or whatever. So that's why I'm offering online classes during this time, particularly, and hopefully we'll all get back into a dojo soon, with the stay-at-home order coming up, and us being, hopefully we'll be able to all get together again at some point. I do actually have a space in Rollinsford, New Hampshire, where I teach classes twice a week. I rent some space there for that. So once we get the all clear that it's safe to gather again, then I will still have that space and be teaching classes there face to face. So as far as what adults should look for, parents should look for in a school for their kids, in a dojo for their kids, I'm a parent. I have two daughters. my oldest daughter trains with me. She's actually my senior student. And my youngest daughter is interested in ballet. She actually works really hard at that, and has done really well. So what a parent should look for, the first thing is safety, really. You have to look for a place where the instructors know how to teach kids safely. There are schools I've seen where it's not uncommon for students to be injured, and other schools I've seen where they want to teach them a cool, flashy technique, but if a student's not ready for it, they could hurt themselves while they're trying the jumping, flying, spinning kick or whatever. And kids are excited to learn stuff like that, but as an instructor, you have to realize what's safe for them to do and what's not. So safety is probably the first thing. The second, probably right up there with safety, would be that you need to be sure that the school is going to teach that it's for defense only. When I teach my kids, I emphasize at least once in every class that this, what they're learning is serious. It's not something to go home and fool around with your friends or your brothers and sisters, or you don't use this unless you're defending yourself. And the last thing I want to do is train a child to be a bully, or the last thing I'm sure most parents want for their kids as well, is for their kids to take martial arts classes and learn to push other kids around or be a bully. That's where that character training comes in. We teach them about compassion and humility and those aspects of being a warrior, so to speak. So to be a peaceful warrior, if you will. Another thing, and reason I kind of lean towards traditional schools is that it's genuine. What they're learning is something that, even though the founder of our particular system was recent, he's basically the figurehead of something that was taught for hundreds of years. And when you go to a traditional school, you learn something about the culture. Most of the terminology that we use for our techniques in class is the Japanese terminology. I basically just count in Japanese. I say in class, but actually mostly, when I go to count something outside of class now, I usually, it's not unusual for me to start counting in Japanese, counting out dollar bills, each sneeze. So you learn something about the culture. I do talk about, samurai history and in Okinawa and, where our art comes from. And they do get that language aspect of it as well. So that's another thing I think parents should look for. And certainly something I value in the martial arts and would value were I searching for another school for my children to train. Other thing would be caring instructors. You want people that genuinely can relate to kids and enjoy working with them. You don't want someone who is used to teaching 24-year-old military students and they can't relate. I mean, there's plenty of people that have taught that aspect and can also relate to kids. So I'm not saying that that's a disqualifier, but you want to look for a place where they can actually relate to kids and teach kids kind of on their level. I certainly don't teach the same intricacies to my junior, 7 to 11-year-old students that I do to adults. It's just a different level of detail, and you just have to use a different style, and you need to find someone who can relate to that style. The instructors have to be able to be trustworthy. Obviously, that's a very important thing nowadays, and they have to be transparent. I remember many years ago I heard a story about a woman whose son went away overnight for his black belt test, and he was 9 years old. And he came back and he told her, well, there were things that happened I can't tell you about, because he had learned the secrets of the art. I can imagine how I would react if my daughter came home from anywhere and told me that there was something she couldn't tell me about. So that's not a thing that's going to ever really be a part of what I teach at Peaceful Heart. there are no secret techniques. There's what I'm teaching your kids, you should be able to know about. And as a matter of fact, I should be very proud to tell you. And I want to hear about progress they're making. That's, another part of relating is I want to know, hey, Johnny did better on his math test this week than he did last week. And he said it was because of the focus that he's been learning in karate class. That's great stuff to hear. And that's sort of part of it too. You want an instructor who's going to build a family atmosphere like that. I want to know about your house and what kind of things you do, where you go on vacation, what kind of cool things you've seen and stuff like that. I want Peaceful Heart to cultivate a family atmosphere like that, because the schools where I've trained have always had that family atmosphere. The school where I train now, we're all doing online training, and it's great. We're having a good time. We're learning stuff still, and but there's something to, you get to the dojo and you're, hanging around a few minutes before class and you're chatting. You hear about, what's going on in this one's life or what's going on in that one's life, and they're interested in what's going on in yours. So you want to look for that family atmosphere. You don't want a place where they want you to just drop your kids off for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever, and then come pick them up. There's a saying in the martial arts: show up, line up, shut up, pay up, and that's the 180-degree opposite of what I'm hoping to cultivate with my dojo here at Peaceful Heart. Okay, so before we start any class, we're going to warm up and stretch out a little bit. I am going to start with 20 jumping jacks, and then we'll stretch our legs, do some stretches for our arms and our back, and then we'll be ready to learn those basic techniques from our introductory lesson. So let's go ahead and jumping jacks. Hajime. Ich, ni, san, chi, go, rook, speech, touch, ku, ju, ju ich, ju ni, ju san, ju chi, ju go, ju rook, ju speech, ju hach, ju ku, niju, niju ich, niju ni, niju san, niju chi, niju go. Okay. So let me stretch out our legs. And do that by bending this front knee, stretching out the back leg straight. Hold that for a little bit. And we straighten out our front leg and lean over. Obviously the benefits of stretching are to avoid injuries and to increase our flexibility. Go ahead and switch over to the other side. So I just want to make sure you stretch evenly. Hopefully, stretching is one of those things that you get a little bit better each time. Straighten out that front leg and reach over. Even your feet out a little bit. Kind of hang over and relax your back. Let it loose. The important thing when we stretch out is you want to make sure that you do it to your ability. So my daughter, who practices ballet, can do a split straight out on the floor. I'm nowhere near that. Go ahead and stretch your arm across. And I try to stretch a little bit more each day. So normally while I'm doing this, I'll stretch out my wrists a little bit as well. Kind of rotate them around and stuff. Go ahead this way. Rotate those wrists around a little bit. part that we like to stretch out that we don't often think about is your neck, because you actually do a lot with it and you don't stretch it very often. So you're going to tuck your chin in. And look up to the ceiling. And look forward. And over to your right, my left. Forward again, other side. I'll go forward. One ear to one shoulder, other ear to the other shoulder. Normally in class we would do maybe some push-ups and some sit-ups or crunches. I usually lean toward crunches. I will not do that here because you wouldn't see me if I went on the floor anyway. So, but take time at this point if you wanted to pause and there's anything you need to stretch more, or if you want to do some sit-ups and push-ups, you can certainly do that. And then you can move ahead. And the stretching, again, to your own ability. So, if you're in a class and someone's going to do 50 jumping jacks, but you start to get winded at 25 or 30, then do your 25 or 30. And then maybe next class, maybe you do 32. And that's the thing. It's about constant improvement. It's a Japanese term called kaizen, which is constant improvement. So, all right, let's go ahead and learn those introductory techniques. So basically with an introductory lesson, I teach three techniques. I always begin with a block. So we're going to go ahead and I'll teach you a block, and then I teach correct punching and correct front kick. So in order to do a good block, the first thing we need to do is have a solid fist. I know, defense only, why are we learning to make a fist first? The truth is, if you have your hands wide open, or if you have your a bad fist done incorrectly, then you could actually hurt yourself. And obviously, you don't want to get hurt. That's certainly not the goal. So the first thing I teach is how to make a correct fist. I'm actually going to come in a little closer for this. And what you do is you take your fingers, you curl them under, and then you take your thumb and you kind of fold it on top like that. Okay? You do not want your thumb inside like this, because obviously when you strike, you would break your thumb. You don't want your thumb like that, because then that's kind of leading and you're going to break it that way. So again, lay your hand flat, curl your fingers up, and then just fold those thumbs across the top. Okay. I know hopefully we're not making fists all the time, so that hopefully is instructional to you. It's not something you do every day. Okay, so the first block I teach is an upper block. And it's really kind of a reactionary thing anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our hands, we're going to put them in what we call chamber. Okay, so everything we do kind of starts back here, and this is called chamber. You have your fist almost as high up as you can in your armpit, or almost at your armpit. And from here, an upper block, you're going to come out and use one arm, and this is kind of the initial block. You just start blocking something maybe coming at your face, and then this arm comes under and goes up to clear it. So you've blocked, you're clearing, and then you end up with this arm up over your head. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice that motion a little bit. And from here, you're just going to move this arm down and use that for the block, and then this arm comes out and rolls up. Okay, so we'll do it in two separate parts. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, when you put it all together in one count, it looks like this. 1, actually been doing this so long that I'm more comfortable counting in Japanese now. So I'm going to go ahead and count a few off. Ich, ni, san, chi, go, rook. Okay, so the next technique that I normally teach in an introductory lesson is a regular punch. So again, we make those fists. So we curl up our fingers, fold our thumbs. And then as I said, everything comes from the chambers, which is back here. Now with the punch, you're going to push out, and right at the last second, you turn your fist over. Okay? So it comes out kind of upside down, and then right at the last second, you turn it over. Okay? Put that one back, push it out, right at the last second, turn it over. Then, when we do it, we switch arms. So, I push out, and then right about the same point, they both flip. And that one goes back, and this one comes out. So, flip. Okay, so let's just focus on one at a time for a second. So I'm going to bring this one back. Out. Turn over. Out, turn it over, back, out, turn it over, back, out, turn it over. Okay, so the way, again, that it works, if you're switching them, this one comes in, the other comes out, and they flip just about the same time. So that's kind of how it looks slower. And I'll go ahead and count off some of those. So ich, ni, san, chi, go, rook, sich, hach, ku, ju. And when you've done them a long time, you can get your hips into it. Ich, ni, san, chi, go, rook, sich, hach, ku, ju. All right. So we've learned to block. We've learned to punch. The next thing is to learn to kick. All right. So kicks. When we learn kicks, when we first start, every kick has 4 counts, okay? So the way that works, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see, is there's a chamber, then a kick, then a rechamber, and then replacing your foot, okay? So chamber, kick, rechamber, down. Chamber, kick, rechamber, down. Chamber, kick, rechamber, down. Okay, and the count for that is ich, ni, san, chi. Ich, ni, san, chi. Ich, ni, san, chi. Ich, ni, san, chi. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do some, not regular speed, but I'll do them on 1 count so you can see. Again, it's still important to keep all 4 parts of it in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, as we train and learn the details on the kicks. We'll learn why each part's important. But for now, let's go ahead and just count some off. Nice and slow. Ich, ni, san, chi, go, rook, sich, hachi, ku, So that's basically our introductory lesson. Learned a block, a punch, and a kick. And we talk a little bit about sort of the history of what we teach and what our approach is. Like I said, we did that at the beginning. So certainly if this is something you want to learn more about, you can again comment in the video, visit our website, send me a message, and what we can do is talk about maybe starting with online classes and moving forward with that. If you're local to our area, then as I said, once everything's back to normal, so to speak, I do have a space in Rollinsford where I teach classes, or there's always the possibility of continuing online as well. So that is the introductory lesson for today. Again, feel free to message or contact me, and we can talk about maybe continuing. Thank you very much. As far as tradition, we always end classes the same way. We do 3 formal bows. So get into kyosuke, which is our formal attention posture, and 3 bows. Shomani, rei. Sensei ni rei, which is sensei. Taihen arigatou gozaimasu. And otagami, rei. Thank you. Have a great day.